death of the old, the death of the dogma, the status quo, the how marriage is, how parenting should be, all of that, the dropping off of the meaning actually allows, the truth of what is, the essence of existence, in my experience, to really take us and embody us. And you said a couple of things that I just want to highlight for people, and then I'll ask you a second question. On your process of embodiment, of your process of being shaped, right? We're being shaped like the mountains. Like the mountains are shaped by erosion. The most beautiful, you have the Grand Canyon, is erosion, is the wind, time, and water, Mm-hmm. And as humans, we're shaped in human erosion, right? Pain, sorrow, darkness, the storms, all the emotional and the psychological and spiritual weathers that create the erosion of our transformation. And I love that you said that you awoke through birthing your child, kind of like it began to awoke, your memories, what is installed in your sacred blueprint, in your template of your genius, right? In kind of your what is called the cities, the powers to be in you that were there. But I want to add something so powerful, and I would like you to expand. You said when your child was born, you asked a question. And I loved that you said, and I let the question guide me, lead me. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that, because I feel the surrender. I feel the trust into the question, because a lot of people place a question into the space of existence, right? And they want an answer now. They without knowing that the question is, the answer is the leading ground. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's been a really an unraveling right into that question, because I feel like, like many of us, for myself too, I come from a very impatient upbringing, where it's like, I want it now. I want to see results. How do I fix this? And being the oldest of four in my family, that was really cultured into me of, that sense of needing to fix things for others as well. And so when I began, like I said, when everything kind of that I had known as a security or some sort of thing that gave me a sense of security was taken away, I was left in a void. And that void, what it felt like, and what most of us, how it translates into, was this depression, this sense of helplessness. And I do, give thanks that my son, and this is how life is so intelligent and always gives us what we need, is that having my son as still an anchor point into this reality really allowed me to ask that question. Because at that time, my little 1.5-year-old, was so innocent, so pure, and so he would look at me with these eyes that's like, I depend on you, Mom, And so looking into his eyes, it was really that reminder that there is something else. There is something else here, and I cannot leave just yet. There's something. And when I began to ask that question of what will I teach my son? What will I teach him to value, so that hopefully he doesn't have to go through the same thing I went through. As a mom, I think that protector aspect really kicked in. And I began a series of journeys myself, and this question always kept coming up, even though not on a very every day I was asking myself this, right? But I understood that there was a deeper question happening, and I really sat with a lot of, I'm sure you're very familiar with Rilke's poetry, because poetry is something that I have loved. Him. Yes, I love poetry. And so reading his poetry, and I came across a certain one that he has about a young poet, letters to a young poet, where a poet sends him a letter and asks him, how will I know? And all of these things. And what he responds is that to spend more time with the question rather, and he will come to the answers in that. And so for me, it really brought alive that question. And I've sat with it so much, Yvonne, you laugh at me with it, because I actually had it printed out, and and then I realized when I was deep in one of my womb shamanism journeys, that question is the divine balance of feminine and masculine qualities, because it's a quest. It's not an answer. It's the question that we place is a guiding light. So like an aim, right? So that's where the masculine aspect comes into, where this dynamic energy that sends us on this quest. But the actual quest, the actual adventure is a feminine essence. And that's where the nonlinear, will come. So really there is no answer. The answer is the unfolding of that quest. And hopefully one day we realize like, oh, that's actually the answer to it.
Wow.
But for me that, and again, this is why I feel so important when we speak of this feminine essence, that knowing that everything is infused with that feminine essence, and it is actually the feminine essence that brings it alive, and so for me, that was kind of that question, like letting the question, and I'm still in this space, my questions shape and shift through the seasons, and and they're very layered. However, it's like I am in this constant quest, this constant question that is teaching me, that is constantly informing me.
Wow. I'm making a lot of notes. I'm writing here to Sophia, who is behind the scenes, who is without her plus her name, Sophia, right? The wisdom. I'm just,
Yes.
This is so powerful, sister, because questions for me, I've always felt them like, I like to live in the question. I like to stay in the question. I like to place questions with openness. But I've never thought about what you just shared. It is true. The essence is feminine, because I always said that questions open up portals of creation. They birth new realities, and the principle of feminine births, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how powerful is this infusion? How actually good news this is for humanity, if they could feel this, if they could if they could let go a little bit about their fascination of thinking that everything has to be a hardship, a doing, a patriarchal, a masculine, when we can all, both men and women, surrender into the question, surrender into the answer that presents whatever it is, and to trust the process and allow this feminine essence to embrace us. I just think, I'm getting like super like in meditation mode here with your presence. So I believe, sister, that this is so important nowadays, especially with what's going on, with pandemic, with COVID, which is a great awakening. It's a great rebirth for humanity. So how do you see this feminine essence and the work that you do helping right now? Well, more than helping, facilitating, assisting, nurturing. What are the most important principles that are needed right now for humanity to uphold in this feminine power that you so much protect, advocate, and embody it in yourself?
What a great question. You're very good with questions too. So
Oh my gosh, sister, I live with questions. I don't live with the answer. I live into the answer. I'm like, oh, that was it. I went,
yes.
I open it up like, would you? And then, some questions are like, oh, okay.
Yes, I love what you said about this question being a portal, because I feel that same way with them myself, and I feel that for us as a collective right now, we were initiated into this portal of a great question that is unfolding for humanity at the time. And for me, what it feels important right now is really to getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Getting comfortable with not having the answers. And when I say comfortable, it doesn't mean just laid back and waiting for someone else to figure it out, but rather getting curious. Getting curious about what is that question that is wanting to be lived through each of us. And I am so, I sometimes feel a little strange even making this statement, because I know that there is a lot of suffering at the moment, and even more so that we can see ourselves and we can feel, and there's suffering everywhere. And so I don't want to diminish that, because I believe that that suffering is sacred in its own way. However, I do believe that, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, that, there's a great call to leadership at this moment. And I feel that the greatest leadership of all is the leadership of self. And really, what is that sovereignty looking like, right? Because I believe that all these things that we're seeing in the external are actually asking us to look inward and say, how am I upholding the sovereignty of being human? If that is the call that I am receiving, if that is where I want to, if I want to walk this path of knowing my higher self, or expressing my genius, or whatever it feels like for you, there is a question that has to be lived out, a journey that has to be taken into how you are going to connect or embody that sovereignty, so that we can show up in a sovereign way in this world and answer whatever call or heartbreak is really calling to us, right? So I feel this beautiful essence of rebirth that is happening for us on a collective level, individual and collective. And the exciting part of it is, and I know that you're going to resonate with this, Yvonne, because you've been on this journey for a long time. But when I first began this journey, nobody was talking about this. Nobody was talking about rebirth. Nobody really
I know.
cared. It was kind of like, what are you weird talking about? And I had to go through all these years of no one understands me, no one gets it. I'm sure you can relate to that. However, what I'm seeing now is this magic, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for the courage that people and women are stepping into, of asking these difficult questions, of saying, this isn't working. What I thought was my security is being taken away from me. So what is that security I'm truly seeking? Is it of this world, or is it of my inner world? Is it of that divine connection that I will feel secure no matter where I am? And the availability that there is right now energetically to dive into these potent questions and really move through it at a faster rate is incredible to me. Because I feel like, for me, I feel like I really had to go through this whole decade of refining this and diving into it. And I am seeing how now that is not even necessary. There's this faster momentum, this faster availability that is open, that it's like somebody asks a question, like 3 months later, they're just like in this place that took me years to get to.
Sister, I started when I was 23. I'm about to turn 50 this year. Celebrate. You'll come to my celebration. And it took me 30 something years. So when I see, I love that you said 10. I'm like, thank God. And then now you see people in 1 year. I was just telling, I'm training incredible group of women in a modality called futuring, which is what you are just sharing, is the power of living in the question, is the quest. Rilke, and I have memorized I think I'm a nerd of Rilke. So one day you and I will get together and like, what did you do with Rilke? But he has a phrase that I love that says, the future enters into us in order to transform itself in us long before it happens. So our work is like kind of being the womb to gestate and to birth. So for this new, and you are, I'm your ancestor, love. I'm entering into my new stage of earning my right to being an elder. I'm starting my 50s. I'm not an elder yet, but I'm earning the right to be able eventually, when I'm 60, 70, to guide women into their other stages, right? But what you are explaining is so powerful, because evolution likes speed, not fast, but the speed. And I'm so grateful, as you say, that that's happening right now, and that you are bringing this awareness that, we kind of went into the fire, right, Anabel? Like you and I, what's rebirthing? What's womb shamanism? I mean, I was told when I created the method Transcendental Rebirthing, and I was doing rebirthings that were not only breath work, it was really connection with people, healthy bonding and connection. You're building a cult. And I was like, what? How is this a cult? You're being a cult. You're a cult leader. I'm like, it's about them. It's not, Anyway, so I went through all the possible